think he'll change. He is committed of his own level of service, and that will remain.
Few institutions can maintain complete, unbreakable silence, but the royal family has mastered it. Never complain and never explain. For generations, this code has protected the monarchy, but what happens when it is broken from within? Sources close to Buckingham Palace claim that Princess Anne finally spoke, not to the public or the press, but to her inner circle, just days after the photographs that shocked the world were released. Her message was devastating in its simplicity. We tried to warn him that the dossier exists. Prince Harry is said to have broken down in tears in his Montecito mansion after hearing those words, because if they are true, everything he believed about his life, his marriage, and his family's alleged betrayal changes completely. Today, we examine what may be the most serious royal intelligence failure in modern history. Everything the mainstream media has told you about Harry and Meghan's romance is called into question by what follows. The issue is not whether Harry made a mistake, but whether Princess Anne tried to save him from a disaster she saw coming from far away. Stay with us and pay close attention to the evidence, because it all begins in the fall of 2016. As London's leaves fall, Prince Harry falls in love and royal protocol quietly takes over. Palace officers initiate a Level 3 security screening, a standard process involving checks for unpaid bills, criminal records, and questionable associations. Usually, it is little more than a formality, but Meghan Markle's case was different. Something raised serious concerns within British intelligence and the Royal Security Office. Consider that for a moment. What background could alarm intelligence services about a cable television actress? Palace insiders say the vetting uncovered information no public relations team could explain away. Meghan publicly presented herself as a struggling actress barely surviving Hollywood between 2008 and 2012, earning modest income from minor roles, brief appearances, and game shows. This was the narrative shared with the world, the underdog story that would later inspire millions. However, surveillance data painted a very different picture. Intelligence reports showed this so-called struggling actress traveling on luxury yachts in the Mediterranean worth tens of millions of dollars, attending elite events where a single evening cost more than most people earn in a year, and moving comfortably within invitation-only circles of Middle Eastern power brokers and Gulf aristocracy. One of the first senior royals to review the file was Princess Anne, known for her direct manner and close relationship with the security establishment. As she examined the timeline, the finances, and the travel records, she asked the question Harry refused to confront: who paid for all of this? Because, without serious financial backing, struggling actresses do not simply circulate through elite global power environments. Someone funded the trips, someone provided the access, and someone enabled her presence in rooms where billionaires negotiate decisions that shape entire nations. The dossier suggested that during those years Meghan Markle was not struggling at all. She was sponsored, and in intelligence terms, unexplained wealth or access is one of the clearest warning signs of a security risk. Blinded by romance, Harry could not see what Princess Anne immediately recognized. These were not random invitations or lucky breaks. The pattern was deliberate. Analysts noticed the same individual repeatedly appearing in the same elite circles over several years without visible means to support that lifestyle. Questions naturally followed about patronage, obligations, and what might be exchanged for such access. Financial records, travel logs, and photographs were cross-checked. Her social network was mapped, common links identified, and a pattern emerged stretching from California to Monaco, from the Mediterranean to the Middle East, financed by sources absent from any tax filings. This ultimately led to a confrontation that reportedly fractured the bond between aunt and nephew. Harry later described it as cruelty, while Princess Anne viewed it as a final attempt to protect him. Imagine her position, holding a confidential intelligence report while watching your nephew plan a wedding scene by billions, knowing facts he refuses to face. Intelligence professionals had monitored the woman he intended to marry for years because she fit a specific profile, and did not lecture Harry about class, race, or royal tradition. She spoke to him about national security. Reports say she placed the Saudi-linked dossier before him and explained what experts call strategic social placement, the deliberate positioning of attractive, intelligent, socially adept individuals near high-value targets. This is not crude espionage, but sophisticated social engineering, where access is granted because someone serves a relational or reputational purpose. And allegedly told Harry the images showed someone entirely at ease in elite environments, fluent in hierarchy, and skilled at navigating rooms filled with powerful and dangerous figures. Her warning was blunt. People do not keep you in these circles unless you are useful, and she has been kept. Harry dismissed it all, convinced he was witnessing persecution rather than protection. He interpreted the dossier as proof of his family's prejudice and hostility toward his happiness, famously insisting that what Meghan wants, Meghan gets. He ignored the evidence, overlooked the receipts, and walked directly into the scenario Princess Anne had tried to prevent. The tragedy lies in the fact that Anne was not acting out of snobbery or bias, but experience. After more than 50 years as a working royal, she had seen countless attempts to exploit royal proximity for political and commercial advantage. She understood the tactics used to gain access and recognized people whose true objectives conflicted with their public narratives. Everything in the dossier triggered those instincts: the Gulf connections, the curated access, the implausible lifestyle, and the carefully constructed public image that contradicted private reality. These were not the hallmarks of an innocent love story, but of a long-term operation. So the question remains, was Princess Anne telling the truth, or was she being cruel? When you examine the numbers, the answer becomes harder to avoid, because money does not lie, no matter how beautiful the romance appears. Meghan Markle's official resume from 2008 to 2012 shows short-term work, brief television appearances, and minor acting roles. She was not a celebrity or even a B-lister. She was a working-class actress in Los Angeles attending auditions, worrying about rent, and taking whatever work she could find. Her most notable role during this period was holding a briefcase on Deal or No Deal, where she reportedly earned about $800 per episode. Now look at the other side of the ledger. Recently released photographs show her aboard yachts worth tens of millions of dollars, attending exclusive parties in Monaco and across the Mediterranean alongside Saudi princes, Russian oligarchs, and foreign financiers. These were events where a single bottle of champagne cost more than a month's rent in Hollywood. The problem is obvious. The numbers do not add up. Summers in Monaco are not paid for by cable television roles. Mediterranean yacht circuits are not funded by carrying a briefcase. The income of a struggling actress does not grant access to elite global events, designer wardrobes, or first-class international travel. This is where the dossier becomes decisive. In 2010, a first-class flight from Los Angeles to Monaco cost between $8,000 and $12,000. Hotels during Monaco's Grand Prix season ran at least $1,000 per night, often far more. Designer evening wear suitable for these events ranged from $5,000 to $20,000 per outfit, with additional costs for accessories, hair, makeup, and styling. A single week in Monaco would easily exceed $50,000. The photographs show this was not a one-time occurrence, but a repeated pattern across multiple years and locations. Someone paid for this. Someone enabled the access, and someone expected something in return because, as Princess Anne reportedly warned Harry, power never gives without demanding value. At this point, the narrative shifts from romance to transaction. In the world of transnational oligarchs and Gulf elites, these arrangements follow a familiar structure. Discretion is the price of entry, beauty is leverage, and access is currency. Intelligence assessments likely concluded that Meghan was not merely lucky. The images span years. This was not opportunism, but methodical support. It was not chance, but investment. Financial forensics would have been damning. Bank records showed no significant withdrawals to fund these trips, no credit card statements for luxury hotels, and no receipts for high-end clothing. That indicates someone else was arranging travel, paying expenses, and ensuring she had everything required to play the role. In intelligence terms, this is called being handled. When you cannot afford the lifestyle, you do not pay for it. Your travel, wardrobe, access, and finances are managed by someone with resources, and in return you provide something of value. Your presence, your discretion, your willingness to be seen with the right people in the right places, and your ability to facilitate introductions. This led to the question Princess and allegedly asked Harry, a question he could not answer then and still cannot today. What was the expected return on that investment? The handler, according to the dossier, was visible. If the yachts were the stage, Marcus Anderson was the director. For years, the media portrayed him as Meghan's close friend and a consultant to the Soho House empire. Palace vetting files reportedly described him very differently. Princess Anne is said to have referred to him not as a companion but as a handler. The term matters. Marcus Anderson was the global membership director of Soho House, an exclusive private club network that functions as a hub for international power brokers, investors, and celebrities. His true skill was not hospitality, but connection. He knew whom to introduce and how to build relationships that benefited all parties. In 2015, 1 year before Meghan met Harry, Anderson organized the opening of Soho House in Istanbul, arguably the most significant event of her pre-royal life. Istanbul matters because it sits at the intersection of East and West, where Middle Eastern capital meets European influence, and where deals never recorded officially are made. According to informed sources, this was not just a glamorous party, but a marketplace where capital and aspirational talent were deliberately introduced. The dossier suggests Meghan was introduced there to a specific network of Middle Eastern bankers and Gulf power brokers, the same network later reflected in the yacht photographs. The timing is critical. The Istanbul event occurred months before she met Prince Harry. In elite circles, that placement reflects nearly a decade of careful cultivation. By then, she would have understood the expectations, the unwritten rules, and how such relationships function. Istanbul likely marked a transition point, signaling she was ready for higher-level connections and could be trusted to operate discreetly. This is where the story tightens. We are told that a mutual friend arranged a blind date between Harry and Meghan in London in 2016. That friend was Marcus Anderson. From there, the palace moved into crisis mode. Buckingham Palace issued a statement quickly, dismissing Princess Anne's claims as untrue and irresponsible, yet notably stopped short of legal threats. They did not label her delusional or attention-seeking. The wording was precise because Princess Anne is not a tabloid source, but a senior royal with decades of service. Non-denial denials often signal fear of contradiction. Behind the scenes, the response was far more urgent. Sources say King Charles convened emergency meetings with senior courtiers and legal advisors to assess what Anne possessed and how extensive her evidence might be. They could not respond effectively without knowing the scope of the material. Social media and non-stop news cycles rendered traditional palace containment strategies ineffective. Legal options were explored rapidly. Within 72 hours, the Royal Legal Council reportedly met to consider unprecedented steps involving marriage dissolution, titles, funding, living arrangements, and constitutional implications. This was not an ordinary divorce scenario, but unexplored legal territory. Senior Constitutional Counsel was engaged to draft terms that would strip ceremonial privileges, end sovereign grant support, and impose strict non-disclosure requirements, preventing future media exploitation. Public reaction was immediate and emotional, with historical parallels resurfacing across the press. King Charles is said to have insisted the matter be resolved before the royal tour season in March to restore stability and public focus. As one source observed, this was not merely a legal crisis, but the final chapter of a story that began decades earlier in the shadows, leaving behind titles without power and status without authority. More importantly, Camilla would lose access to the Duchy of Cornwall funds, the vast estate that underpins much of the royal family's private financing. She would also be cut off from crown estate privileges, effectively severing her from the financial infrastructure that supports a royal lifestyle. Raymell House, which is notably not an official royal residence, would become her permanent home. Any breach of these conditions could carry penalties of up to £5 million. According to reports, Prince William personally insisted on these terms. Throughout the process, King Charles has complied, though those close to his communications team describe him as emotionally fragile. As one source put it, there would be no more reshaping history to suit her agenda. While Charles has attended legal briefings, his focus remains divided between duty and personal collapse. Prince William's declaration stunned the palace. At Kensington Palace, the morning began like any other until 7:48 a.m., when an official statement was released through formal channels. Within seconds, aides realized something was different. The statement did not come from a committee, an office, or a spokesperson. It came directly from Prince William, and that detail changed everything. The tone lacked the usual formality of palace announcements. William stated that the Crown and the Duchess of Sussex would have no future relationship. There was no language suggesting reconciliation, no room for reinterpretation, and no hint of reversal. The door was closed, deliberately and publicly. As the day progressed, attention shifted to William's motivation. Observers wanted to know how the decision was reached, who had been consulted, and how long it had been in motion. The media response was immediate and overwhelming. The BBC broke the story, followed by Sky News and ITV interrupting regular programming. CNN issued an alert banner in the United States. By 8 a.m., the announcement had displaced entertainment, weather, and financial news across major networks. Veteran royal correspondents described it as unprecedented. Reuters issued a breaking report within minutes, and major European outlets updated headlines before the workday even began. Social media reacted even faster. Data showed more than 1 million interactions within 10 minutes, and the topic reached the top of global trends in under 8 minutes. Timing proved critical. Released at 7:48 a.m., the statement landed simultaneously in North America's late-night newsrooms, Asia's afternoon cycle, and Britain's breakfast television. There was no quiet window and no controlled rollout. Analysts noted that while financial markets remained stable, the institutional shock was unmistakable. Public reaction varied by age. Polling later that day revealed a sharp generational divide. Many older respondents viewed the decision as necessary and long overdue, while younger audiences struggled with its finality. Importantly, William did not deliver a personal address. There were no emotional appeals, no references to past interviews, and no direct rebuttals. The silence was intentional. It left little room for counter-narratives and forced observers to focus on structure, precedent, and consequence rather than personalities. Historians noted that while royal titles have been withdrawn before, no one could recall a comparable declaration issued personally by a future monarch. Diplomatic channels quickly sought clarification, palace switchboards were overwhelmed, and journalists gathered outside Kensington Palace before midday. What made the moment historic was not noise, but certainty. Then came the revelation. December 2025, a date now etched into royal history, not for celebration but for rupture. The setting was deliberate. Not Buckingham Palace or Windsor Castle, but Gatcombe Park, Princess Anne's private home. This was not a royal ceremony, but a controlled disclosure. And appeared before a small group of selected journalists, her composure strained by the weight of what she carried. She revealed that she had uncovered emails, encrypted messages, phone records, and documented meetings indicating coordinated activity involving Meghan Markle and Prince Andrew. What she described, she said, went beyond family conflict. It threatened the integrity of the crown itself. The room reportedly fell silent, and stated that Meghan's departure from the royal family in 2020 was not an impulsive escape, but part of a longer strategy that predated Andrew's forced resignation following his Epstein interview. According to her account, a covert collaboration had formed, sustained through secrecy and shared interests, and, usually controlled and restrained, spoke with visible anger. She said she had remained silent out of loyalty to the institution, believing such matters should be handled privately. For Princess Anne, a woman known for avoiding attention, to speak publicly at all was the true alarm bell. Palace communications did not endorse her statement. She spoke alone, fully aware of the consequences. Legal analysts immediately examined the implications for titles, funding, and representation, careful not to go beyond what had been formally stated. The line had been drawn. What followed was no longer speculation about what had happened, but concern over what would come next. Princess Anne, who had spent her life in quiet service, had forced a moment of reckoning. The question is no longer whether the story will fade, but whether the institution can survive the fallout. The monarchy, as it stands, cannot continue unchanged. This is not the end of the story. It is the beginning of what comes after.